this? Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey guys, what's up? Johnny Glock here. We tried to go live stream on YouTube. It got taken down immediately. I think AI might have saw the gun or something like that. And then we tried to bounce over to Instagram, and my account's not set up for this. So we're just going to do this the good old-fashioned way. We're just going to shoot a video and post it. And it's even better because we have more sophisticated camera and stuff like that to do that for you guys. So, the V model. There's been all kind of panties being ruffled about Glock here in the last several weeks or whatever. Once Lenny McGill broke the internet concerning this discontinuation of the Gen 5s. I'm going to say the Gen 5s because Gen 3s were only being manufactured, from my understanding, for California. And then the Gen 4s have been discontinued since 2018, maybe even sooner than 2018. I think the last one they had something trickled that might have been discontinued, but they still service those guns. Every Gen 3 part they have that's OEM is on the Armor's sheet, on the Armor's parts list. Every single part for the Gen 4 is on the Armor's parts list. And Glock has confirmed that everything on the Gen 5 list is going to be on the Armor's parts list. So they will continually. So I think the last major Gen 3 was maybe 2006. That's almost 20 years ago. So they still have parts for those that they're servicing those weapons because there's so many of these still out there. So they're not going to discontinue parts and service. So let's just get that out of the way. Second, I personally don't own a, several $100 multi-million-dollar company. I do know, I could speculate why they did it, but I'm not a fan of speculate. That's why I've been kind of quiet about this whole thing. James in the Bible says, be fast to listen and slow to speak. And so basically I was kind of following that. I'm just going to sit back. And I got to be honest with you, with the whole social media thing, after the whole Charlie Kirk incident, I divorced myself from it anyway because I saw such ugly divisiveness. I'm just like, I'm done. I don't need to see any of this. I don't even need to be part of this whole mechanism. But when this Glock thing came up, it was, a little less ominous. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to pay attention to it. And just the amount of, I don't even know what to call it, man. It was just like, it's not like the gun community that I grew up in. You know what I mean? It was almost like, I don't know, it had the flavor of some skinny jean wearing, coffee pouring. Just put it this way, man. It was unexpected, and it was really kind of like, what? Because I don't know, but it was silly. It was really silly, and all these opinions, and and especially the people that were speaking authoritatively, like I'm going to tell you exactly why Glock did this and exactly what they're going to change, and get ready for this part to be in the new one, and they're going to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I kind of know a little bit about these guns, so I'm just like, no, that's not going to work. That's not why they did it. So I just shut the heck up because I wanted to make sure I was coming from a place of reality, and so I was going to wait till I had one of these in my hands until I said anything at all, because I don't like to speculate. I like to go with facts. Anything you always get from me on this channel is always like, hey, if I don't have an experience with it, I'm not going to speak about it. If I do have experience, I'll give you my experience. If I've talked to several different shooters that I trust that have had good experiences with things, like I don't use stainless steel channel liners, but I've had a lot of good shooters that have had really good luck with them, and I trust those shooters, so I could say, okay, I could endorse these for what they're using them for. And give certain brands, but I think it's, maybe a good thing to, take that advice to be fast to listen and slow to talk when, you're dealing with things like this, especially when it's pure speculation. So I know the rumor that is out there is that they did this because, there was a bunch of lawsuits that they're trying to not have to deal with, and if they would change the ability for the Glock to be easily modified to be a machine pistol, then they could get out from underneath those. From a business perspective, just from a business perspective, I will say that if I was in business and I could avoid multi-million-dollar lawsuits and end up at the same spot anyway after spending multi-millions of dollars, then that with that business cap on, I would do it. And then there's the part about the principle too, but I think everyone needs to remember like that, Kalashnikov, they interviewed him and he said if he'd have known that gun he made was going to take so much life, he probably wouldn't have done it. So there's more to this than just like, hey, these guys are kowtowing to the ATF or something like that. I mean, I'm sure Gaston is rolling in his grave, thinking that, gangbangers are out there taking life, an innocent life with his gun because they're modifying it into a machine pistol with cheap parts that come from overseas or that are 3D printed or something like that. There's that part to think about it as well, in my opinion. Now, whatever you fall on, like, the hard principled side or the business side, whatever, man. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's an opinion, not my company. It's not your company. You can say whatever you want to say, but until you're until you have that situation happen, you really don't know what you're going to do. So let's just stick to facts. The facts are they changed it. I'll admit I was a little bit like, oh no, what's going on here? What's this mean for me? I'm selfish. You know what I mean? What does this mean for the Johnny Glock empire? And, of course, my wife was talking about it. I said, you know what? I'll figure it out. Like, if you're passionate about what you do, you'll always figure it out. So I really didn't have too much of a worry about that, especially after I spoke with some of the people at Glock and got some more actual intel from people that were in a place that could give real intel. So with that said, I am going to, cosmetically it looks the same, has a V on the, and I'm going to refrain from moving this around a lot because I think that's how we got blinged before, because YouTube has some community guidelines that are just ridiculous, but cosmetically it's exactly the same. Automatically when I look at the back plate, I can see things have been changed from the Gen 5, but everywhere else on this firearm is 100% the Gen 5. So that's on the outside. Let's take a look at the inside. I can honestly say, and these guys can be my witness, that I probably received this gun about 45 minutes ago. Got a chance to look at it, check it out. Kind of go over what, if you have any knowledge of switches and what they do, and you take a look at what has happened here, you can very, very easily see that the disconnect for a switch lives right here. It literally lives right in this area. And so it has to have a flush back to be pushed into it. There's no real way around this unless they would make some mechanism that slides or something like that. Eventually someone's going to try to do their best. I've had people ask me, like, why wouldn't you make a forced reset trigger? Or why isn't there the Johnny Glock's binary? Why wouldn't you invent something like that? And honestly, like I did 10, 15 years ago, and I just thought they were the dumbest things ever. So, they don't make a lot of sense to me. I think they're very dangerous, especially, because you have to drop the magazine and discharge the round while keeping your finger depressed on the trigger. When you're using that binary trigger, any forward movement is going to actually fire the pistol. And and I said this before the chat, the live stream got closed down, but if there are any SF guys out there, or even SWAT guys, or guys that are in a position that have the understanding of why what type of like mission specific reason you would need a machine pistol, I would love to hear that. Or if you ever had to use one. I don't really know enough about, covert operations and stuff like that, where they would say, okay, y'all are definitely heading out with some Glock machine pistols. I just don't know. But I would love to, I like to learn just as much as the next guy, so I would love to hear about that. What I can tell you is, like I said, the disconnect for a switch sits right about here. So they are blocking that entrance. I think the only reason this is here on the other side is to kind of balance things out, because as you're pushing this striker back, it's always a good idea, from, an engineering standpoint, to keep things, contained in a channel that seems to have, the same height and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more of an obtuse angle. It's a little bit more of an acute angle here. For what reason that is, I really don't know. Those are the major changes to the milling of the slide. The reset ramp right here is the same. This outcropping, it's all the exact same. Now, I haven't put it on a caliper, but, I have a few parts, but to be quite honest, it's the same exact firing pin safety. I'm going to contrast it again so you can see, the difference between these two. Like you can see, and hopefully you're picking this up, Mike, these two don't exist on the Gen 5. And also because they had to build these up a certain way, they decided to make the striker thinner. Now, what's cool about Glock is they're really very utilitarian. So when we take this striker out, you'll see that it's just until they get to the spacer sleeve, and then it becomes back the normal thickness. And that's for obvious reasons, because it's functioning in a spacer sleeve a certain way, and I didn't want to create another spacer sleeve, I'm going to assume. That was the thing that I know Glock is a very intelligent company, and any company that's half a brain is going to make as little changes as they have to achieve their end goal. And if their end goal was to stop the use of that illegal device, then these minute changes have 100% done it. Now, I was also told by Glock that the back plate has changed. So we're going to take a look at that. First, we'll take a look at, like I said, with the striker, and we'll kind of do apples to apples. I'll take this striker out right quick. I'll try to keep these all. Several things are different with the back plates. But with the striker, you can see that it's been substantially thinned right there. However, the part that is in the spacer sleeve that goes here, in order to stabilize it a little bit better, I'm sure they left this little bit of a, maybe I should get a pointer or something like this. Okay, they left this little bit of a lip right there, call it a lip or whatever, and then they started thinning out after that. And I can assume, I hate saying assume, I can logically deduce that the reason they did that was so they did not have to make a different spacer sleeve. So why would they want to make a different spacer sleeve that would really when they didn't have to? Like I said, it's a very intelligent modification that utilizes all of the parts from previous generations. Every generation before this has had the same spacer sleeve, spring cups, and all that stuff. So it makes sense to use the same thing. If they can achieve their goal without changing a whole bunch of stuff, that means less machining, that means less parts, that means their profit margins don't change, and all that kind of stuff. So, I could say for a fact the changes in this are not at all significant enough to affect reliability. It's the same gun with a couple of slight changes. So that was one of the worries that a lot of people said, that they were worried about the reliability of the Glock. And you can see this, you can also see this from another angle is right here. They have these raised edges. They don't have them here. This is thinner right there. So if I would stick that in the Gen 5, you would see there's a lot of wiggle room right there. I don't know why this is what I'm trying to figure out too. On the very end of that, I don't know if the lighting can catch it correctly, but there's a little cut right there. Just a little, and they don't do things for no reason whatsoever. I mean, everything they do has a reason. So I'm still trying to figure out what that might be about. That I'm sure that will come to fruition after studying this for a little bit longer than a half an hour. Look, as the video goes on, it'll get shorter and shorter. Studying this for a little more than 15 minutes. So yeah, so we're going to put this back. I'm going to put the Gen 5 striker back together. Same exact extractor. The numbers verify that they're the same. That's what you do with the Glock. They have numbers on them. The strikers have a different number on it, so that 100% tells me they're different parts. That's how you can really differentiate, other than just using from your eye. Set these aside. So this is the old striker. I mean, this is the old back plate. I'm just going to throw this caliper on here. As you can see, that's how wide it is. And the new one is significantly smaller. Now that's kind of bad news for Trigger Tech, because their system is predicated on the size of this, and it's also predicated on having this space opened up in order to have their trigger work. Maybe I can grab one of these real quick and see how that's going to pan out. That was just a thought that I had. Yeah, this is no bueno for this one. So this is the Trigger Tech trigger right here. As you can see, it fits down in there very easily in the Gen 5 if I slide it in, because everything's flush and flat in there, and it's tucked away right in there. Okay, and like I said, it's right up against that. And it's just an observation that I had. I was like, oh, wow. They spent 3 years developing this, and they're going to definitely, and they had some hiccups along the way, and now they're going to have to definitely, this is not even going to fit up in there. And if they change that, this will not even fit inside of here now, because they have this raised area that is not going to allow that to fit inside there anymore. So, yeah, that's that. Just an observation I had. I was like, wow. Anyway, put that back together. So there, have been some changes to. Okay, so when you also the size of it, you can see there's been some changes to the openings of these right here. When they do that, just like they've done it from the 4 to the 5, that usually reflects some changes that they have had to do to the housing. So I'm sure, and like I said, I've seen the housing has some changes. They're about the same thickness, but they are definitely 100% different backplate sizes and different shapes. So we're going to put this back on here. Put the Gen 5 slide back together just so we don't start losing stuff. I always have to keep track of these things. Now, if we go over to the, to the slides, I'll put the V on the right. So this is the V. This is the Gen 5. It is, it's very Wait, let me make sure this isn't, yeah. It's so similar to the eye that it's really hard to catch the changes that they are doing, what they're doing with it. There are some changes there. The one is, if you look at the difference in the back here, you have a shorter amount of material right there. And that's why you need the room. The right here, you'll see there's a different notch for that to fit through. It looks like they've also reinforced. I'm going to pop this out real quick because this is actually the Gen 5. You know, for the Gen 5s, they had a tab back here that, you know, they originally installed it so you couldn't put a switch in, but it was just a little nub. This is the tab that everyone was saying you had to modify your Glock with the Trigger Tech in order for that to, you know, for the Trigger Tech model to be used. That's the part that you have to cut off. So what they did with that, beyond still having that, like the locking block is the same, this is the same, this trigger bar for a Gen 5 is the exact same number. So that means they have not changed that. The connector is the same as the Gen 5, it's a dot connector. The ejector is the same, it has the same exact numbers as the Gen 5. So a lot of this is the same. One of the things, like I said, that has changed is, let me grab a Gen, okay, so if you look at the difference right here in between, this is the Gen 5 and this is the V. So there's, this one's chunkier, it's thicker. And I think the reason they did that, they made this thinner because they actually wanted to bring support up through here to have this back area. As much interference as they could put back here, I think they wanted to do. I haven't, and I'm not going to drill into this, but I don't know. Right here I can see that there's metal exposed. Now the Gen 5 does have metal back there too, but not to the extent where it's all the way up into that nub. So you cannot just cut that nub off right there with a X-Acto knife. You would actually have to go at it with, you know, a cutoff wheel or something like that. And I think they reinforced that once again because as much interference as they can put into this, they're going to do for obvious reasons of why they changed it. It meets their goals. But as far as everything else is concerned, I mean, cosmetically, other than these things back here, you know, unless anyone can see something that I'm not seeing, it's cosmetically exactly the same. So there's been, and there are a few other changes too. I don't know how significant or insignificant they are. I'm going to kind of stay reserved about that for certain reasons, but eventually I will speak on them because I can't 100%. I can't say 100% of their actual changes that have been designed for a certain reason. Yeah. So that's it. You know what I mean? You want to bring that up, Mike? It's not like to see my my joyous mug. Can you see me in that camera?
No, I've been focused on the gun.
That's what I'm trying to say. Focus on my face, bro. Dang. I don't know if you guys didn't see the short. You guys didn't see that streaming video, but someone got me a new hat. I got I think it's Resto. It's a I forget what it is, man. It's a nice hat, man. It's a 6-ax, 100% felt. I think they have a blend of like hair of like beaver. I think they have a blend of beaver, rabbit, and something else. But you know, it's a very traditional hat. If y'all know anything about hats, I kind of prefer like either a Gus crown or maybe like a front pinch with little, you know, more like a triangle or a teardrop up there. And I'm definitely a fan of like more like the, you know, like say like the Cool Hand Luke. But I like my crease fast. I don't like a roll, you know what I mean? I like it out here with a little bit of turn down punchy. Kind of like a, you know, if you know anything about hats, there's all West Texas punch. I mean, JB, taco, half taco, blah, blah, blah. But like I said, that cool hand Luke way out here with a very quick crease. It just does my face right, if you know what I'm saying. I kind of got that oval face. So, man's got to know what kind of cowboy hat he likes. Anyway, so let's get back to what I was talking about. What was I talking about? Anyway.
Action.
All right, we had to change out cameras. So it just happens. I'm so photogenic. I just fry batteries and stuff like that. Lenses melt. One of the other things that I've noticed is the recoil assembly. They don't just put extra numbers on stuff for no reason. So the Gen 5 is just a 13. This is a 113. Glock is known for like upgrading things, so maybe this is like an upgrade because it does fit the Gen 5. But that's one of those things like I don't know absolutely, so I'm not gonna. All I can say is it's a different number. That's exactly what I can say. Same thing with the housing has a different number stamped on it. The striker has a different number stamped on it, so we know those are definitely different parts. Now, the big question is, trigger-wise, they said it was a better trigger. You know, it's a modification of the housing. Anything that they did to this, I really don't see affecting the trigger whatsoever. So it is definitely a standard Glock Gen 5 with a dot connector trigger brake. So like a longer reset, same amount of pre-travel right there to the wall. The wall, like the dot connector, is kind of, you can see I'm pushing in. It's kind of mushy brake, okay? And then after that, it goes all the way to the back of the gun, and so therefore, it even goes further back once you rack it, which the bullet does for you, of course, and all the way forward. That. So that is the Glock Model V with their trigger. Now, y'all didn't think I was gonna do a video about this without coming up with a little something of my own. So we are introducing the prototype of the Johnny Glock Evo Vex. It's so great that they used a V, because I can play off this so many different ways. I don't know we're actually going to name the trigger. If you guys want to come up with some cool things, that would be great. But let's see how this sucker drops in to the gun that I just got 5 minutes ago. All right, y'all have had my triggers before. You know it's comes nice and packed up. I wanted to give it a little bit of a presentation, so.
Wait, it's got the zip tie.
Yeah. Had to put the zip tie on it and pretend like I just got this. Obviously, I don't have two of these, so you know this was just some modifications I did to make this work. So let's see how this bad boy drops in. Let it be known that I have made the first available aftermarket trigger for the V. Now, we will be running probably 10,000 rounds to this sucker tomorrow, which is going to stink because, you know, we have to do our due diligence, and I was only able to get a 10-round magazine, so. But all the magazines are interchangeable, so we'll be able to use some of our 17-round magazines. The boys just got back from visiting their grandfather for a couple of days, so they're going to have some nice calluses on their fingers for loading up magazines. And it's always a fun time when we do this too, because like the guns get so hot, you have to actually have a bucket with or you know, like a dishwater bin with ice in it, so you can cool the actual slide down, because 10,000 rounds in a row gets it gets pretty hot, man. So we do give the gun a little bit of a break. It's not like you can do it all 10,000 at a time, but we do want to do a 10,000 round burn. Wait, this is okay? Yeah. So this is the old one I took out right here, and this. Let me just double make sure. Yeah, this is the old one I took out. This is the new Johnny Glock's V model. I'll put it all back together like she came. Evo Vex. I don't know. Help me out, guys. I'm not going to listen to you anyway, but you can still give me a, like I did with the Umbra, you could still give me some creative names. Right in like that. All right. It is the Vex trigger shoe. We're going to slide this on. Oh, 1 second to push this over. Come on. Okay, slide that on. And now what we have is a very short distance to a little bit like same thing as you're used to with that Vex pre-travel. A nice stout wall there. And instead of all that push, 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 we're just going to have a break. Okay. And then here's your reset now. So rake, reset, break, reset, break. So once again, this is going to clean up this trigger the way that all the, Evolution X combats, it functions the exact same way. This is the prototype. We designed it tonight right here. And we are going to run it and run it and run it tomorrow, and we will let you know the results. But like I said, I've been doing this long enough, and this has no reliability. I guarantee this has no reliability issues whatsoever. I mean, the V model in and of itself. So that's not going to have any reliability issues. And I'm using 100% OEM parts. That stands to be the same deduction that we're not going to have any issues whatsoever. So I'm really not worried about it. Not that I won't do my due diligence, because, hey, who the heck doesn't love shooting 10,000 rounds? Anyway, I hope this was a good video for you guys. I hope it was informative. I know there's a lot of stuff out there about these right now, and this is all pretty much fact-based, and that's what we want to put out here. And we are really glad that we got our hands on one sooner than later, because I just couldn't stand listening to stuff on the internet anymore. I was ready to be like, oh no, this is just, if I hear one other gun tuber say something that is so not correct and cannot be correct, I'm going to lose it. So anyway, guys, listen. If you like the content, then hit the subscribe button. If you like the content, first hit the like button, then hit the subscribe button, then hit the share button, then go to Instagram and become a subscriber there, and Facebook, and all the other places that we have social media. And remember, guys, trigger control is control.